Hello again. This is my recording for the second tutorial mission, which was the junior programming pathway for me. And I'd like to apologize in advance for any background noise you may hear. Uh, we have noisy neighbors that I have no control over, but we'll get started right away. I'll first explain what I did. Um, the junior programmer pathway first starts with programming basics, and it has two parts that are mostly just informative. There's no real results we can show off for it. And then for the other parts, these are units that have a prototype we create as well as a challenge where we fix something similar to what we did. And then I can also show my work on my own little personal project to go alongside these missions. I'll do that afterwards. And I believe there were quests after each thing, and I'll try to show that off as well. So for the first thing we did, prototype one, it has you learn the basics of Unity and also get some movement and physics in. So I created a little game where you're on a road with a bus and you can burrow through the objects. It's a little jittery. We were working in the 2018 version for this, and as a result, it's harder to uh, make sure the physics works well with what I learned before. So that's what I have for this. It's a very simple game, and we can move on to challenge one, where they had a plane that didn't fly correctly, and we have to fix it. And I'll show you that it is perfectly functional, and you can even control it with the arrow keys. So if you press up and down, you can steer it. I have it in reverse controls. And then you can go through the obstacle course. Yeah. And then for a bonus challenge, you could also get the rotor spinning on the plane, which I did do. It's pretty nice. It is kind of weird that you can go completely upside down, not exactly following the expected principles of flight. So that was for Unit 1. And I believe there's a test at the end. Yep, quiz 1. Let me see if I can show off what I did. I passed 10 out of 10. Question 1, question 2, so on and so forth. And so if we jump ahead to Unit 2, Introduction to Project Management and Teamwork, I believe it was mostly informative, but if you wanted to, you could start working on something with basic templates for a larger project. It's not necessarily required for what I'm doing for this pathway so far. So if we jump ahead to the next prototype, this one, we learned how to constrain movement to a specific playing field. And for this one, I noticed a bug when it came to creating a build and uploading it. And I believe it'll work better if it's made full screen. Otherwise, well, there's some clipping off on the side. Let me do that, it's a bit laggy. As a result, it's possible that you might not see some of the animals coming down the screen, but for the purpose of this, you can see at least some of the animals, and the game works as it should. You can feed them and they'll disappear along with the food. All right. And then for the challenge of this unit, we had something similar, but in a different direction. The last one was top down. This one is a sideways view. So gravity applies. And for this one, we had to make it so you could press spacebar to call your dog to try and catch a ball that's falling. It's all randomized, and we had to make sure that it worked correctly. And for a bonus, we could also make sure you cannot spam click the dog. So I have it set to an interval of 1 second. Kind of makes it a bit difficult to catch the ball, but with enough practice, it wouldn't be too bad. And then for the quiz at this part, I got 6 out of 10. This one was a bit tougher for me. As you can see here, and here, and here. But I went on with the mission summary, and there was an extra exercise at the end called Mod the Cube. And I will show you what I made for that. It would start you out with a cube that was a single color and spinning, and the goal was to just modify it in your own creative way. So I made use of what we learned in Unit 2 to randomize things. And if you press space, you can reset it, and it'll have a random position, spin at a random angle, and have a random color. Jazzy. For that, you do have to optionally submit it, maybe show it off, and that's what I did. And that was it for programming basics. At this point, we're very close to all that's required to do. There was also a quiz for this section overall, and I got 10 out of 11 on it. I did a bit extra to just finish off like the next bare minimum I had to do. I did not want to start a unit and stop there. So for this part, I only did Unit 3, and that's the cutoff point. And I will show you the prototype. All right. This one is the first one where we started to look into sound effects and effects in general. So we made use of the particle system and how audio plays. So the goal of this game was to dodge obstacles, and I really like the condition set up. It looks like we're running, but the way the game actually works is that the character is animated and he's standing in place while the backdrop is sent backwards, and it has two pieces of it that duplicate. So all we really have to do for the background is reset the position, and you do not notice that at all. And the same goes for the obstacles. They get spawned in and they're moving left, and they get cleaned up when they're off the screen. And so if we go back to the challenge for this unit, this was the most difficult one yet. There were a lot of bugs that almost seemed to not make sense, and you would try to test the first one they tell you to do, only for it to not quite work out because there were other bugs involved. So for this one, you press spacebar to float up, and your goal is to get the cache and avoid the bombs. And if I turn on the sound, one of the bonus parts of this challenge was making it so you could hit the ground and bounce, and that's what you just seen there. And then there will also be effects if you collect something or if you hit a bomb. It is kind of weird, the hitbox is only on the actual balloon, not the string itself. And once you stop the game, this is where it ends up. And then, so this was all that we did for the junior programming pathway, but there's one other thing I'd like to show. On the side, they want you to work on your own project. And initially, you need to first plan it out And I will grab my mission plan here and go over it. I believe it's this. Yep. So here's my project design document. For the concept, you control a jellyfish in a side view game. Spacebar and arrow keys will let you accelerate forward or turn, and you will try to collect falling stars that come from the top of the screen, and your goal is to collect as many as possible. For sound effects, I wanted the stars to have a sound effect and maybe some star particle effects. And then there will be music, and everything else would coincide with the next unit in the junior programmer pathway. And right now where I am at, the player control is finished and it's constrained. And this goes with, this gets done by the end of unit 3. But another step they wanted you to complete is they wanted you to set up just primitive objects to symbolize. And also, before I forget, they also wanted you to draw a sketch of what it would look like. So here's the jellyfish. I wanted you to be able to turn left and right and just move forward. Stars would fall down. Maybe you come out of the ocean and just start floating into space. And then the goal would be, or there would be enemies based on the constellations. So I got one for a bow and arrow that would fire arrows at you. And then that's just the moon, I think. All right, now if I show my project, you can see that I have primitive objects. The player is just a jellyfish made out of spheres. The star is just a cube. And then the enemy, the bow and arrow, is just 2 capsules inside each other. And if I play test here, you can see the movement works. So if I turn left and right, it starts to go, and you can hold space to propel yourself forward. And I'm still working out some bugs with turning. As you can see, I hit the object and ended up not facing the right direction. So I was going towards the ground at that point. And then I also wanted to show off, I bound the movement so you cannot leave the screen. So if you go down to the side, nope, you stop there. If we go down to the very bottom of the screen, you also stop there. And last but not least, the final side. Yep, you get stopped. So this is all I have for this tutorial mission at this point. Thanks for watching. One last thing, I almost forgot to show off the quiz for Unit 3. So this one was 10 questions and I got all 10 correct. By this point, I've become quite familiar with audio and the animated controller, which is what this one focused on. That's it. Thank you.